The story begins on a battlefield where the protagonist is face to face with what seems to be a final boss, Horn with a big sword. He says that God is dead and that humanity now worships money and references arcane engineering. However, at the end of that pursuit, they ended up turning themselves into slaves of monsters. Holding the sword and trembling, the protagonist asks how that is fair. Seeing the boss pulling out the sword, he throws himself forward, saying that none of this makes sense. The guy is screaming there. An explosion sweeps across the whole city, and this actually is the best modern apocalypse game that exists called Arcane Soul. Now in the present, our guy is looking at his phone screen saying that this pay-to-win game is a disgrace. This is our boy Kim Jun-soo, 22 years old. Looking at the character agonizing on the screen, he says this is so unfair. How is a poor guy like him, who doesn't spend money on the game, supposed to win anything? The guy in front of him says that he actually did pretty well for someone playing with a free character, but of course his own character is so strong that even on autoplay he beat the protagonist. Then he finishes off the poor guys on the ground, saying that in the end, he actually did pretty well for someone who doesn't spend money on the game. The poor guys are walking down the street, full of rage, cursing the heavens, saying that even after spending 10,000 hours on this damn game, he can't beat anyone who spent just a little money. Clearly, this wasn't a game. This is the disgrace of a casino with characters. But he says that in the end, he's the idiot for still playing this crap. He should just be doing homework and moving on with life. But like a true addict, he's going to try pulling the daily free character to see what comes this time. But this time things were different. A platinum chest appeared, surrounded by a mystical aura. He recognized it instantly, bro. What he got from that chest was the exact same character the guy was using, the SSR rank Celestial Demon. Right then, he couldn't believe it. That was literally the rarest and most expensive character in the entire game. The chance of pulling that while playing for free is 0.000006. In other words, yeah, impossible, like winning the lottery. Right away, he starts using all the free characters he had to power up the new one, which is way more powerful. At least since he's been playing for a long time, he has tons of experience and is gonna max that character out. No more getting beaten up by those bastards who spend money on the game. Then all of his characters start being fused into the Celestial Demon. The experience begins to rise and he tosses the phone in the air saying goodbye to Warrior Kim. Warrior Kim Wright, which is the name of his character. Since he's named Kim and the character is a warrior, incredible. A genius at naming characters. But hold up, folks. Look who's showing up from the side. Right after he got the Celestial Demon, the guy's expression changed. He wondered why this event felt kind of familiar, like something he'd read before. Next scene, he opens his eyes and he's in a hospital, people. Wait, so it wasn't a nice guy. Or was it? He gets up all crooked, wondering where he is and why he's there. Of course, his head starts hurting right away, and he remembers the truck that came right at him. The guy kind of dodged it, but the hit still landed on his body. As soon as he gets back to his senses, a nurse walks into the room and calls him Warrior Kim. She says she'll go get a doctor, but he's sitting there confused, trying to understand why she called him Warrior Kim. When he looks at his name, that's exactly what it says on the file. The poor guy's a bit lost, wondering if the hospital staff are a bunch of crazies or just fans of that game. Maybe it's just a joke because he spent those 10,000 hours playing as Warrior Kim, leveling everything up to boost the Celestial Demon. But wouldn't it be ironic if he actually became Warrior Kim? The second he tries to get up from the bed and touches the ground with his foot, man, pain shoots through him. First realistic accident where the protagonist actually has consequences. The others just get up and walk like it's solo leveling. The nurse comes running and shouting, telling Warrior Kim that obviously he can't be walking around just yet. Then the doctor shows up and says that for someone who got hit by a truck, he's actually in decent shape. But before he can leave, he'll have to run a magical vision test. Of course, Kim Jun-soo is confused. What is this stuff about calling him Warrior Kim and magic tests? A bit later at the front desk, someone does some calculations and says that, considering all the costs, it's going to be just $22 million. The poor guy freezes for a second and asks why he's paying U.S. hospital prices. The doctor, smiling, completely ignores him and says that if he doesn't have insurance, he'll obviously have to pay out of pocket. The poor guy says he pays his taxes on time. He was entitled to the Korean national health system, but the lady's confused and says that in the land of the orange guy, there's no public health system. Actually, she asks if he has insurance from the Legion or the Magic Tower. Every second, he's understanding less and less. That's when he remembers he's heard terms like those before. Magic Legion, Mega Corporation, Magic Tower, and Sacred Order. The four factions that ruled that game. The world where the gods abandoned humanity and arcane science advanced drastically. Earth was polluted by monsters, and humans had to modify themselves to survive. And now the poor guy finally gets it. He ended up in a world that's insanely hard to survive in. And worst of all, he landed there right after his accident and is already all messed up. Walking around the zone, he says this is so unfair. The second he was happy about getting the celestial demon, something like this happens and he becomes a tutorial character. Maybe it's divine punishment for having discarded all those warrior Kims he had. When he enters the room, he's shocked. It's a cubicle smaller than the one he used to live in. He's already wondering why the hell this warrior Kim is so damn poor. He falls onto the bed saying that now he's screwed. His body's wrecked. He has no money. And on top of that, he's a tutorial character. At least it's arcane soul, which he knows so well. The problem is, he knows that soon there will be nuclear war and dimensional explosions. The ancient gods will come seeking revenge, and this place will turn into hell. He doesn't know how or why he ended up there, but he's 100% sure that if he stands still, he dies. That's when the madman has a crazy idea, bro. He grabs a pen and says, "This is the moment to find out. Better now than later." He stabs his own hand and screams in pain, but right away it turns hilarious. The wound disappears and he gets excited, saying he knew it would work. Just like that, he gains a trait, wound recovery. That's the reason he was able to create so many warrior Kims. That's the only character with no base traits. On the other hand, you can do certain things to earn different attributes. And for him, that's perfect. Someone who has to rely on strategy instead of an overpowered character. And now he's got the biggest advantage because he became warrior Kim himself. The first trait he got, wound recovery, already healed his leg and all the damage from the accident. As long as he works hard, he can get any trait he wants, and he doesn't have time to stand around because arcane soul is the kind of place where you die if you're poor or powerless. You also die if you're unlucky, and you die if you run away too much. But he's not going to let any of that happen to him. Back at the start of the game, he was ranked 100 in Kim 1689, but he played and played. After 10,000 hours, being the only person who made it that far without spending a cent, he was in the top 10. Ranked 9, one of the best players. All of that was always with Warrior Kim, the very body he's in now. Already in a player zone, a bearded guy asks Warrior Kim if it's really his first time there. Our boy says yes and says he wants to join the mana purification business. Truth is, first he needs to make money, because in this gacha game, bro, money is everything. And the only thing he's got right now is his body. So that's how he's going to earn. The old guy throws his foot up on the table and says that, yeah, it might be called mana purification, but he should know exactly what clean a dungeon means. That was director Choi Hyun-soo. A little awkward, the protagonist says he does, and the guy immediately comments that there's absolutely nothing on his resume. But our boy knows that the job he's asking for is miserable, so he'll definitely get hired. Cleaning contaminated mana isn't something a lot of people are willing to do. The reason is, as more and more monsters started taking over the Soul region, dungeon cleanups became a necessary task. Basically, it means collecting battle debris that's emitting contaminated mana. The problem is, constant exposure in that place can lead to instant death. There's a guy there with his hand on his head, releasing a dark aura, asking for help, and suddenly he transforms. The result of exposure is turning into something extremely dangerous, which is then immediately executed. Hyun-soo goes ahead and says he's hired, and once they've got enough people, he'll be placed in a team. But he recommends the boy think it over. He's seen a lot of people start out in this line of work, and soon after become something unrecognizable. Kim Jun-soo, however, replies that he shouldn't worry. If there's one thing he has, it's patience, bro. The guy played 10,000 hours for Freeman, so if he's got anything, it's patience and experience. But in the next panel, we see the team captain named Deer. That's literally his name, folks. Well, yeah, you can see the little horns there. Makes sense. He asks if he's the new trash that's going to join the team. A bit confused, our boy answers like, yeah, he thinks it's him, but he didn't come here to get roasted like that. That's when Deer grabs him by the collar and gets up close, asking if he thinks this is some kind of playground. Oh, where's the fire in the kid's eyes? He's sure the boy will soon be begging to be killed after going through an instant mutation. Kim doesn't care about any of that and just replies, fine. He'll stay aware of something like that. While remembering that in the game, it was like that too. This guy was always trying to scare people. The real question is, why is a guy like Deer? Someone ranked R even here. Apparently he used to look normal before awakening and growing those little legs too. That's when another guy in a blue shirt comes running and tells Deer to stop messing with the rookie. After all, they were already sure on people working this niche. This guy is Red Hog with 5 years of experience in the field. Deer, though, says he doesn't have many expectations for the kid, as long as he doesn't get in the way, and that's good enough. Then he walks off saying it's time for them to get going. They've got 5 spots to clean. Warrior Kim isn't happy about getting humiliated like that. For some reason, this bastard was even crueler in real life than in the game. But Red Hog tells him to relax, saying that while the guy seems annoying, he's actually a decent person. So our boy just says, okay then. Next scene, they're standing in front of a metropolitan gate. The smell there was absolutely awful, but the boss just tells them to get ready. They're going in. As soon as he swipes the card and the door opens, he's already shouting for everyone to get into position. Among the piles and piles and piles of rubble, there are what seem to be slimes. Actually, they weren't just slimes, they were contaminated slimes. And the annoying part about this creature wasn't its strength or danger, but the simple fact that even if you cut it in half, it doesn't die. It only dies if you find the manticore that's hidden somewhere inside its body. Everyone's already all tangled up when Kim charges straight at one of them. The teammate who's being swallowed up by a monster looks back, and Kim's coming in swinging a pickaxe, apologizing, but saying he won't be responsible for what happens next. He just barely manages to hit the core and avoid the guy's leg. The poor dude nearly fainted, but the slime died. Meanwhile, the guy who merely got his junk sliced in half is trembling on the ground. Our warrior Kim, on the other hand, is already running and finishing off everything, striking core after core nonstop. The boss and the rest of the team are confused. It looked like the bastard was killing each one in a single hit, something that shouldn't be possible since the core is randomized. But that actually is something pretty much impossible. So now we go back to 2 days earlier. The lunatic was on the ground in a playground, digging around for something. Families were even pulling their kids away, saying not to look at this craziness. But then suddenly Kim found what he was looking for, a 501 coin, and because of that, he earned the treasure hunter trait. For him, that was the most important thing for a warrior Kim. While he's celebrating having found the coin, an old lady tells the kids not to listen to that crazy guy. But the truth is, our protagonist knows that before you start killing monsters, there are a few things worth collecting. Next scene, he's in front of a trash can, vomiting. And with that, he acquires the contamination resistance trait. That one was one of the worst since apparently he had to deal with a bunch of stinky stuff and garbage. Just like in the game, you get certain traits as long as you fulfill certain conditions. Obviously, right? Because he is Warrior Kim, in total, you could have 6 traits activated at the same time and could switch between them whenever you wanted. With Treasure Hunter, you could see what his opponent's weaknesses were. That's because that trait let him easily spot monicores. But then the slime explodes in the middle of the group. Deer's there, shielding himself, telling them to be careful and not to end up swallowing any of that contaminated mana. Meanwhile, Man is looking at the inside of the creature, soaked in slime, saying that hard work always pays off. Warrior Kim really was the perfect class for someone who likes to put in the effort. And of course, he can't be contaminated, right? Because he's got the resistance trait activated, Even though he's acting all badass, playing the tough guy, on the bus, he's totally wiped out after a day of work, bro. Red Hog, though, comes over and thanks him, saying that it's because of our boy that everyone's getting off early today. He sits beside him and says he's never seen anyone work as well as he does. Maybe he'll awaken like deer. But our boy lies, says nah, nothing like that. He just has a bit of military experience, that's all. The guy still praises him, saying that if that's true, then he really is amazing. But then, out of nowhere, horns appear on his that he's undergoing changes automatically. Our boy says, yeah, you should probably start taking it easy and take a break from work. But Red Hog says he'd rather turn into a mutant than face the reality of a life full of debt. This game world is perfect, bro. The Korean work routine of 25-hour workdays with the US healthcare system. All the best parts of capitalism. And Kim, poor guy, he knows someone like Red Hog doesn't have many options. 4 days pass, and once again, the job is done. Since he's the only one with poison resistance, he's also the only one who finishes the job without being totally wrecked like the others. Someone nearby is puking, bro. And yeah, it looks like Red Hog is starting to go through the transformation. Kim just thinks to himself that he told this guy to stop overworking like that. That's when Deer shows up behind him saying that apparently the kid's still full of energy. Maybe it's because he's so young. You never imagined someone like him would be that good at the job. Back off, Deer. We haven't even seen a wafer yet. Bro, go away. Our humble boy replies that it's thanks to the team. But obviously, right, it's all thanks to those damn traits. Deer, though, sits down and says that he, on the other hand, is dead tired. That's when suddenly they hear a sound nearby. When they turn, they see that Red Hog is beginning to transform. The others call out to him, asking if he's feeling okay. In the same second, Deer takes off running, telling everyone to be careful, and Kim already knows what's about to happen. They're hugging their friend, telling him to keep his mind clear that they'll get out of there soon. But man, his expression changes. Right then, an explosion sweeps across the cleanup site. When Kim opens his eyes again, a giant red foot is stomping the ground, and his friend had turned into a mutant. The sad thing about the mutation is that, in 1 second, the person loses all sanity. And if they don't take this guy down right there, they won't be able to get out alive either. The problem is, the 6 traits he has equipped right now are all focused on monster cleanup. None of them will help him win this fight. No matter how he looks at this situation, he knows that everyone there is screwed. Bro, I really thought this was going to be one of those scenes where the protagonist dodges everything, comes out like a badass. But nope. This story is keeping it real. With no combat traits, he just got punched in the face, blown into the ground, and left totally wrecked. At the very least, he got the resistance trait. Obviously, he wasn't going to give up that easily. He opens the status window and starts switching out his traits. Of course, strength would be useful right now. Mana Heart would help him focus his energy. Resistance would increase his chances of surviving each attack. Mana absorption and regeneration would work well together to help him recover. And the last piece of the puzzle, corruption resistance, since the enemy was a mutated creature. With that, he had all the basics set up and was time to go on the offensive. But who comes charging in, bro? It's Red Row rushing in for another hit. Kim throws the shovel back and activates the strength trait. With that, he had 10 times the strength of a regular human. One smack with the shovel set the creature flying like a golf ball. He's feeling confident, saying the rhythm's good, and maybe he can do this. But then the Sonic cousin stops midair, starts spinning, and comes right back at him. The bastard even bounces off a rock and comes from above. He's there wondering how he's supposed to dodge something like that. The whole ground explodes and Red Row rolls to the side. Our boy, Kim Jun-soo, managed to resist by activating the resistance trait that boosted his defense tenfold. But even getting ready to punch, he says that even with that cursed trait, it still hurt like hell. The problem is, he doesn't have time to think. If he stops here, he tries to throw a flurry of punches. But the problem, bro, are the spikes on the monster's back. And worse, the mutant seems to have control and fires one like an arrow. Nope, not one. What the hell? The dude fired a whole barrage and our boy got shredded. Man, I know he's got resistance, but now he's really done for. flat on the ground. But when it comes to perseverance, he's got plenty of that. All pierced up, he charges again to land another punch. I don't even know what happened, but the guy's hand is not looking too good. Red Row prepares another attack and blows up his arm. Bro, come on, this is the first monster he's fighting. It already feels like the final boss. The poor guy's just lying there, thinking that the life of a warrior Kim is never easy. The monster comes in for a hammer strike to finish him, and the ground explodes. We then see a flashback. Our boy was back there, playing on mobile with his warrior Kim, telling everyone to come at him because he'd win. Back then, playing was so easy. All he had to do was tap a few times and the hunt began. He never thought about what the characters were actually going through, but now he realized it's painful as hell to even earn a mediocre trait. From inside Red Row's hand comes an attack that smacks him right in the face and sends him flying. The kid is all impaled, but suddenly he's jacked. He finally acquired the mutant muscle trait. What the hell, bro? It's like Tremblone is flowing through the kid's blood, and he says now he understands. There's no winning without paying the price. The reason you went into those reckless attacks was to obtain this trait, which you could only get when mana heart and strength were activated at the same time. From the start, it was all for this moment. Red Row goes for another attack, but now he blocks it with his arm. He hits back full force, saying that move won't work on him anymore. The monster, though, fills his fist with spikes and lands a direct hit to the chest. That bastard. Now he's full of holes again. What now? Gonna awaken another trait? Looks like that's exactly what's happening. His whole body, riddled with holes, starts regenerating. He had obtained the mutant body trait, and he thanks Red Row, saying that he's been evolving a lot thanks to his friend. The creature charges once more and the two locked hands pushing against each other. Meanwhile, on the ground, Deer, who had been knocked out, starts to wake up and sees the chaos unfolding right in front of him. He doesn't understand what just happened with Warrior Kim or what kind of superhuman strength that was. How was it possible for a human to be fighting head-to-head with a mutant creature? The two monsters hit each other with an attack and both go down. Even with all those traits, things weren't easy for our warrior Kim. His size was similar to the monsters, but even then he was at a disadvantage. The creature roars and he knows it's dangerous, but he has no choice. The monster charges in again, Sonic style, while he activates contamination resistance. He's going to have to do the only thing left. Use a delete with that trait. Bro, Deer is freaked out. I don't know what he deleted, but Kim's transforming all weird. He turned red, more buff, and giant. Up the Tremblone dose. Guy went full demon mode, drawing pentagrams on his head and firing a laser at Red Rogue. Half the area got wiped out, and Deer's on the ground, still trying to process how the kid just did that. The protagonist glances back, and Deer can't understand why the mutants are fighting each other. That should only be possible if Kim had transformed and still managed to keep his consciousness. In that moment, bro, he was the mutant warrior Kim. Man, the dude's like 30 meters tall, while Deer's crawling on all fours like, but the big guy is coming up from behind. That massive hand is coming down to crush him. But when he looks back again, Kim had already transformed back. The energy ran out, and he dropped to the ground like a bag of trash, celebrating that at least he survived. All of this was only possible thanks to the corruption resistance trait. It allows you to unlock the mutant body and mutant muscles. And then, if you have both activated and deleted the resistance, you gain the mutant trait. Everyone believes that once that happens, there's no turning back to normal. But of course, after 10,000 hours of gameplay, he figured out what had to be done. First, when you have the mutant muscles, you kind of get used to that feeling, and in the moment you delete the other trait, you try to hold on to a bit of your consciousness. The moment the fight ends, you remove the mutant trait and re-equip poison resistance, and that way you detransform. Sneaky bastard. Turns out you're a real strategist, huh? Only problem is, he's lying there in the trash, completely done for. His muscles hurt like hell, and he can't even move. The character, with no stats, is completely jacked now, huh? And monster. He pulls himself up, legs shaking like crazy, and remembers that when Red Road died, he got a level 1 human Manticore, and he makes that crazy face saying it was all worth it. He just forgot one small detail. That guy was supposedly his friend, but clearly he doesn't care, bro. What matters is the Manticore. He's jumping with joy, saying this cleanup job really paid off. Then Deer shows up with 2 guys behind him, asking if our boy is okay, wanting to know if he really became a mutant. What the hell just happened? Obviously, Kim doesn't want weird rumors starting about him. So he says he thought the only way to win was to let the virus affect him, hoping he'd return to normal. In other words, it was all luck. Deer seems unconvinced, saying it was all too easy. But Kim just brushes it off and tosses the items in his hand, telling them it's time for everyone to head back and get some fresh air, because that place was way too contaminated. Our boy's confident that after handing over some Manticores and saving these guys' lives, they'll probably keep his little secret. But Deer, yeah, he's standing there still kind of suspicious, clutching his balls nervously. Back with Chief Hyun-soo, who's now all smiles and happy, saying he heard the kid went through a really tough situation. Must have been terrible. Kim says, "Nah, it was super easy and everything went just fine," while trying to figure out why the hell this guy is suddenly trying to suck up to him. Then the boss says he should have just come out and said he was a superhuman. For sure, he would have been given a way better job than the dungeon cleanup. Now it makes sense. The guy thinks our boy has some kind of special ability. In the world of Arcane Soul, what's a superhuman, right? Guess what? It's a human with abilities. Thanks for that, author. Really, your explanations are always so helpful. Without them, no one would understand anything. Obviously, in a world like this, where strength is everything, that's super rare. The protagonist is actually just a normal human. But since he killed a mutant, of course people would think otherwise. That's when the boss pulls his hand out of his pocket, saying he has to pay for the cleanup. Seeing the big old money pouch, our boy is more than happy to let the guy believe whatever he wants. The guy slams $50 million on the table and says that usually they keep 20% and the rest would be split among the team. But this time it'll be different. He says they'll only keep 5% and even give Kim a bonus. Our boy is speechless, man. In total, he's walking away with $12 million. The face of a lunatic, saying how nice it is to work with honest people like that. As he's walking out of the office, he's all cheerful, thinking about how he's going to spend that money. A guy nearby says that he looks really pumped. Must have gotten a nice payday. A little embarrassed, Kim says, yeah, while remembering that this was one of the guys who worked the job with him. Then the bald guy says he wants to talk to him and ask for a favor. His wife is sick, and he wanted to borrow a bit of money. Well, poor Kim, he just got paid not even 10 seconds ago, and people are already asking to borrow from him. What a damn curse. The guy's apologizing, saying the only chance to save her came when they worked together. He realized Kim was a good kid. But our protagonist isn't sure if helping people like this is a smart move. After all, he barely understands how this world works. What if this guy stabs him in the back later? He asks the guy not to bow since he's older and hands over some man of stones, saying it's not much, but he hopes it helps. Little Kim would never ignore someone in need. Sometime later, back home. Look at this bastard's face, saying that idiot really is a sucker for giving him money just because he made a sad face. Oh wait, this ain't home. It's an alley. That damn Deer is there, saying the kid must be new to the game to go around handing out money like that. The guy says if he had randomly made up a story about having a kid too, Kim would have given him even more money. Not to mention, he's pissed that the bastard probably got paid more than them. Deer says that yeah, something's definitely off. That guy isn't even superhuman, so maybe it's time they taught him a lesson. The bald guy asks what he means, and Deer says it's obvious. That little idiot must have some weird ability, and they all know his secret. He then crushes the man of stones and says it's time to show just how scary this world can really be. Oh boy, background characters never stay satisfied, huh? Y'all had a good thing going, but now you're asking to get stomped. That's a wrap for today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. We love having you here and can't wait to share more awesome content with you. Don't forget to drop a comment letting us know what you think, and we'll see you in the next upload.